Trump during the 15 up to the 16 debates, 2016, 2015, about migrations and how these people are supposedly shithole peoples from shithole places and their babies are anchor babies. He said, one lady crossed, he said, these illegal migrants, a pregnant lady crosses over illegally over the border, squats down and drop a baby. And you know what I call these babies? Anchor babies. Welfare from the cradle to the grave. These are criminals. These are lowlives. These are people that don't love our country. They're coming to invade our country. And so I remember in the 1990s that Cuban refugees were packed tightly inside of makeshift rafts, inner tubes, floating, swimming to Florida to escape from communism. So people like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, remember how Trump says, I started all the way at the end of the stage, and now look at me. I'm at the center of the stage, and look who's beside me. Little Rubio and Lying Ted. He said that at his rallies as they were battling for the final nomination of the candidacy for the president in 2016 for the nomination of the Republican Party. So you got to understand, if Trump denigrates the integrities of human beings, calling them criminals, lowlives, belittling the birth of Latinos as pregnant women crossing illegally, squatting down and dropping a baby. And these babies are anchor babies because these are babies that want welfare from the cradle to the grave. At the end of the day, saying that these are shithole people, these are thug criminals, lowlives. They're coming here illegally. Oh, and I guess to Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, if Trump would have been running in the 1990s, addressing the immigration issues, he would have treated your migrants from Cuba in the 1990s in the same fashion of hate rallies. There would have been no change in this tune of denigrating the integrities of humanity and blaming it on illegal migrations with the fervor of xenophobia. So for y'all as representatives to allow Trump to denigrate human decency, to be considered human at the end of the day, regardless if you're coming to this country as a migrant, don't rob humanity of its decency when it comes to the issue of migrations. You can have legal migrations, but you don't need to use hatred, vile, vulgar, xenophobia, hate rallies to rob humanity, the decency of humanity, from migrants. To be considered human beings as migrants at the end of the day, to be treated with respect and kindness at the end of the day. That should not be robbed, desecrated, or belittled by the president or the nominees or any politician in this country. When migrants come to this country, they come in search of the American dream, not to be faced with the abruptness of a chief and commander, robbing the integrities of decencies of human beings. In the Bill of Rights, it says all humans are created equal. But if you listen to Trump, these are criminals, these are lowlives, these are rapists. They're emptying out their prisons and sending us their worst. Rubio, Ted Cruz, Trump would have been saying that very same thing about your parents or your families of Cubanos in Miami as y'all came from Cuba escaping oppression. If Trump would have been running for the nomination back then, he would have been spewing out the same hatred, riling up his base, denigrating y'all Cubans as y'all swam, falling into the oceans, taking the chance of being eaten by sharks, escaping oppression to come to America. Imagine if the tables would turn and Trump would have been president, running for president, and president at that time. He would have not treated y'all any different. He would have been calling y'all shithole peoples from shithole places. He would have been calling y'all anchor babies. So for Rubio and Ted Cruz to be brown-nosing behind Trump, to be belittled when Trump said, I started out at the far end of the stage, but look at me now. I'm at the center, and look who's beside me. Lying Ted and little Rubio. Saying that in one of his rallies about Ted Cruz's parents, particularly his mother, he said she was a Canadian citizen, and somehow Ted ended up in Texas. There's something funny going on right there. In other words, insinuating that Ted Cruz's mother crossed over the Canadian border illegally and that somehow gave birth to Ted Cruz in Texas. And somehow that makes Ted Cruz an anchor baby, an illegitimate candidate for the White House. I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have been accusing Ted of his birth certificate, like he did Obama. But for y'all, Miami Cubans, to follow Trump to the deep edge, knowing that he was denigrating and robbing the integrities and decencies of Latin migrants from the rest of Latin America, to sell out the pride of Latino values, of decency, to be a Latino, to be a family of indigenous browns that are proudly considered themselves in the traditions of Latino cultures. To let somebody spit and denigrate and defecate on the integrities of Latinos from South America. That's right, I'm talking to you, Rubio and Ted. To brown nose behind Trump and not smell the stench of his kind is appalling to me. I believe that migrants, no matter where they come from around the world, we should treat them with courtesy and respect and dignity that human beings deserve, regardless from where they come, from where they originate from. Treat migrants with respect and decency and courtesy. Yes, we can have legal migrations, but never demagogue and denigrate and take their integrities and drag it through the mud as human beings, like Trump has for 2015, 2016, all the way to the present day. If you listen to Fox when they talk about migrants in such a callous way. At the end of the day, y'all sold out your values as representatives. Y'all sold the pride of Latin America for the cheapest offers of the Trump tickets, of his rallies, following him around, Ted Cruz, through every rally, CPAC, brown nosing as close as you can behind him. Y'all lost your values, y'all lost your touch with humanity when it comes to the integrities of Latinos, Americans, because this is the Americas. And even though these Latinos live in South America, they're still human, decent beings. And I expect any leader in the Oval Office to address Latin Americans in the same respect that they deserve as human beings. not an Atlantish. This despotism of hate mongering, of fear mongering, and robbing them of their integrities and decencies as human beings. Making it a norm that right-wing news just is obsessed about the war. Like Fox News and Murdoch. And all they can do is say, hey, these are criminals, these are lowlives, these are rapists, these are gangsters. They're infesting our countries. Like these people are somehow subhumans. To make it a habit to say, Trump, 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 build a wall, build a wall. And then shit all of the integrities of human beings from Latin America. Like they don't deserve to be considered decent people at the end of the day. Human beings, like the rest of human beings from around the world. We shouldn't have a president that makes it a habit to rob migrants of their decencies and integrities. That shouldn't be a norm in the Oval Office. It doesn't matter where you come from around the world. We shouldn't have a president saying, go back from which you came if you don't like it here. Go back to your shithole places. This is not the norm that a president in the Oval Office should represent or utter out his mouth and make it a norm in right-wing news. You know, Hitler was denigrating xenophobically the Jewish people. And then when he got so powerful in Germany with his brown shirts and his black shirts, he has so much hate and this despotism for the Jewish people that he came up with the solution, the final solution, just before they were surrounding him to kill him, just before the British, American, and Russian army was surrounding Hitler in his bunker. He was initiating the final solution, ordering those prison camps and the prisoners of decent Jewish people to be gassed and exterminated as a people. In the world, there's no room for any leader to have xenophobia and hatred towards ethnicity and denigrate their migrations in such a way that when you're in a seat of position representing being a leader of a country, you shouldn't make it a norm to jump in front of the cameras and stand on stage knowing that the world is watching you and listening, especially when you're in the office to run for a president of representing a country, to stand in front of the cameras and say xenophobia to the point that you're losing track of the big picture. These are people, at the end of the day, they're human beings. Treat them with the courtesy and the decency that they deserve. Yes, we can have fair migrations. And legal migrations, but we don't need to denigrate and belittle and subvert and despotism when it comes to human rights. Under the Bill of Rights, we are all created equal. Did you forget that, Rubio? Did you forget that, Ted Cruz? Did y'all Miami Cubanos forget that? Because the way y'all follow Trump, it's like y'all don't have no sense of that we are all created equal with unalienable rights.